Hi, I'm Adam Johns from the Chicago Sun-Times, and I'm joined here by colleague Mark Potash, and we're here for another edition of the Bears Video Mailbag. And Mark, this is going to be an ugly edition of the Bears Video Mailbag because it was an ugly loss against the hated rivals from up north. So, big question here is about Mel Tucker's job status. Everybody's asking it, and this comes from Jim Miller on Twitter. I assume not the former Bears quarterback.
You never know.
How is Tucker not gone? What are his explanations? I'm assuming Mark Trestman. What are Mark Trestman's explanations for what those guys are doing on defense? People constantly out of position.
Well, Mel Tucker's still with the Bears because the Bears are an organization that makes changes. I wouldn't say most, but I'd say a lot of organizations would have fired him or certainly will at the end of the season. The defensive lapses are inexcusable. As much as I like Mel, the job is just not getting done. I fully expect the Bears. That's the first move they will make. I think they probably should make more, to tell you the truth. But there's no doubt that almost no matter what happens the rest of the season, I think when you look at this, especially it being a non-playoff year, but I think he'll be the one to go.
All right, more hot seat talk right here. This is from Jordan Young on Twitter. What's got to happen the rest of the way for us to get a guy with a respectable football IQ running this team? Hashtag, that's so much to ask. I assume he's talking about maybe general manager Phil Emery and head coach Mark Trestman here.
I guess maybe Emery because there's no doubt that Trestman has a respectable football IQ. And I think so does Phil does too, but there's more to it than that to do his job and for Trestman to do his job. With regard to Phil Emery, I mean, I think it's kind of this season has exposed him as kind of a scout who doesn't quite know, how to manage players and get the right players. I think I've said it before. I really think this team has an issue with the makeup of the team. I just don't think it's good. It's right. You look at a guy like Lamar Houston. I think he's a nice guy, but he's been kind of a dog. Telling people to eat dirt and then doing that silly celebration and getting hurt.
That's not sacked Jimmy Garoppolo.
He comes from Oakland. That's another strike. That's not a winning player. Even though that's been his intent, I don't think Phil has put together a team of winning players. So really, it's not so much football IQ. It's being able to kind of manage people and find the right people, leaders for your team. And I just don't feel that's what they're missing. They need somebody who can really look for the right intangibles in football players. They don't have it right now.
This is from Buck Beagle on Twitter. Do you really think this is all Cutler's fault? Obviously, we don't, but I don't think so because his numbers are in the top 10. I think some of his numbers are kind of misleading, though, at least the past couple weeks. Yes, his accuracy percentage is up, his completion percentage, but he's putting up numbers in garbage time in some games. I just look at the past 2 weeks, the Patriots and the Packers. He's producing, he's completing passes, but the game is already way out of hand. When they needed him the most, in the early going to prevent the blowouts from happening, to have a drive, to keep games close, he couldn't convert on third downs. He couldn't make the easy passes, and he failed really in key situations.
We've said this time and again about Jay Cutler. I think it's been well defined. This has been kind of a year of defining Jay Cutler, what he is. He's not the guy who's going to lift a team on his shoulders and carry it across the finish line or carry it even close to the finish line. But he hasn't also been good enough to even give the defense a chance or give his team a chance to win. He has to bear some responsibility.
Most important player on the team, quarterback.
Absolutely.
Sorry. All right, one final question here. This is from Ryan on Twitter. Why aren't these excellent weeks of practice translating to the Sunday games? Do you really think this team doesn't care? And let's give some context here. It's because Mark Trestman says after every loss that he had an excellent week of practice, or that his team had an excellent week of practice, and for whatever reason, he's confounded now. It's not translating to Sunday.
Well, that loses a little bit of its effect when he keeps saying it week after week. Maybe these great weeks of practice aren't so great after all. For one thing, their defense is going up against their offense, and neither has really shown that they're great at anything. So maybe that's the issue, is that he sees what they do against each other and thinks they're actually accomplishing something. It's kind of a false sense of accomplishment, and then he gets totally fooled.
And to answer your second question, Ryan, about if this team doesn't really care, I don't know if they go into games not caring. No. I think you do have some proud veterans on this team, some accomplished veterans who have been to the multiple Pro Bowls and whatnot, but I think you're seeing a team that's struggling with confidence issues. And once things start snowballing in bad ways, like look at the Packers game, once Jay Cutler made that second possession interception, you knew things were really going to turn on its head. Things were just going to snowball in such a bad way for the Bears that that a blowout was potentially brewing because you knew the defense couldn't stop Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Aaron Rodgers. He goes on and on and on. I don't think they give up walking into games, but you could see them hang their heads as these games progress.
I think that's easily explained. They care. I've talked to these guys. They're a lot of them are very good players. They're professionals. They care, but they're human beings, and they're not the kind of guys. Like I said, it also goes back to leadership. They're the kind of guys who are, frankly, you're going to wilt a little bit. Any of us would in that situation. And there's a certain character a team has that if this team had it, they wouldn't be in this spot in the first place. So it just kind of compounds itself, and that's why the Bears are in the situation they are, 3-6, looking at a non-playoff season and hoping with the fandom and us, hoping that it doesn't get worse before it gets better.
He's Mark Potash. I'm Adam Johns. Thanks for watching this edition of the Bears Video Mailbag. Keep your questions tweeted at Mark Potash or at Adam Johns. Thanks for coming to SunTimes.com.